Hello guys, welcome to Movies Recap channel. Today we're talking about the movie The Reader. The film starts in 1995 Berlin, where Michael Berg, a fashionable man, is making breakfast for Brigitte, a young brunette woman who has spent the night with him. As Michael observes a Berlin S-Bahn pass through outside, the two parted amicably. Then, the scene shifts to another tram on a dreary winter day in Neustadt, West Germany, in early 1958. A dejected-looking teenager named Michael exits the vehicle but continues to walk the streets until stopping and beginning to throw up outside a neighboring apartment complex. Tram conductor Hannah Schmidt centers and aids him in getting home. Scarlet fever is identified in Michael, who must spend the following 3 months recovering at home. Michael's only option is to wait it out while examining his steps. As springtime approaches, he comes to the apartment complex to thank Hannah and present a bunch of flowers to her unit after he has recovered. She is direct with him, but she begs him to accompany her to her job on the tram line. But he flees in shame when she discovers him watching her get dressed. She seduces him when he comes back to apologize a few days later. She finally tells him her name, Hannah. Every day after school, Michael comes back to her despite the obvious attraction of females his own age. The two start a sexy relationship that lasts all spring and over his summer break from school. She often asks him to read books he is studying in school, such The Odyssey, The Lady with the Dog, and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, during their liaisons, which all take place at her flat. In order for them to embark on a bike tour around the countryside, he sells his collection of stamps. Hannah grows uneasy after receiving a promotion from the tram business to a better earning position with an office job. They make love one last time before she leaves without informing Michael where she is going after snapping at him when he tries to read her The Lady with the Dog by Chekhov when he gets at her flat for one of their trysts. It breaks Michael's heart. Michael enrolls in Heidelberg Law School in 1966, 8 years after turning 23. He attends a trial of several women who were accused of allowing 300 Jewish women to perish in a burning church when they were SS guards on the death marches following the 1944 evacuation of Auschwitz concentration camp as part of a special seminar taught by Professor Roll, a survivor of a concentration camp. When Michael learns that Hannah is a defendant, he is astounded. To try to understand this, he goes to a former camp himself. The trial divides the class, with one student furiously asserting that the only thing to be learned from it is that horrible actions did really occur. He informs Roll that the elder German generation should commit themselves as a result of their past and present inaction in preventing the Holocaust. Ilana Mather, a young Jewish lady who wrote a memoir about how she and her mother escaped, provided the critical testimony in support of the case. Unlike her fellow convicts, Hannah reveals during her testimony that she knew Auschwitz was an extermination camp the entire time. She also acknowledges that each SS guard, including herself, would select 10 detainees at random. Then, in order to prevent overcrowding, these prisoners would be put to death to make room for the new arrivals. In Hannah's situation, she would decide to send the physically frail and less capable inmates to their deaths. Additionally, Hannah would force the inmates to read to her. She would pick a female prisoner at random each evening to read a book to her in her office before escorting them back to their cells since she loves to be read to. Every prisoner who gave Hannah books to read would eventually be put to death. 300 counts of murder were added to the charges against Hannah during her time as an SS guard when an Allied airstrike unintentionally hit a chapel where the inmates were spending the night. When the roof of the church fell, a fire started. All of the doors leading out of the burning church were locked as the captives sought to flee. Hannah and the other SS guards had the authority to open the doors so the captives might flee, but they chose not to. Only 2 of the detainees made it. Despite pressure from the other defendants, Hannah vehemently disputes that she personally approved a report to shut the church exit doors, preventing the convicts from escaping. Hannah maintains her denial of the charges by saying that someone forged her signature when the prosecutor provides a paper with her signature allowing the church incident. Hannah, however, abruptly recants her protestations and acknowledges signing the document when she is requested to submit a handwritten sample of her signature to compare it to the signature on the document. Michael, who is watching from the courtroom audience, then learns Hannah's secret. She is illiterate and has made many decisions in her life to hide that. She even decided to join the SS because she didn't want to have to admit her illiteracy in order to advance in her career. Without going into detail, Michael tells Roll that he has information that is in the defendant's favor but is unsure what to do about it because the defendant wants to keep it a secret. Roll advises him that the seminar is useless if he hasn't learned anything from the past. In contrast to the other defendants, Hannah is given a life sentence for her part in the church deaths. Michael quickly earns his law degree and gradually rises to the top of the legal profession. He marries Mart, a young woman, and the two of them have a daughter they name Julia. But Michael doesn't seem to have changed. A few years later, Mart leaves him, and the couple divorces. He also grows estranged from his daughter. He reconnects with Hannah by reading some of the pieces he had written throughout their relationship into a tape recorder after finding his old books and notes from that period. The cassettes and a different tape recorder are sent to her in prison. Later, she uses these to train herself to read the books from the jail library, and she eventually responds to him in writing. Michael continues to provide audio records but doesn't respond to letters or visits. He receives a letter from the jail warden in 1988 asking for his assistance in making plans for the elderly Hannah upon her impending release on parole. Reluctantly, he decides to support Hannah. 1 week before she is to be freed, he finds her an apartment and a job, but on his first visit, he is distant from her. She admits to him that she never gave her work as an SS guard any thought before the trial, but that she no longer does. She hangs herself in her cell after he departs, leaving a message for Michael and a tea box filled with money. She requests in her will that Michael leave the family of an Auschwitz prisoner her entire life's savings. Michael later makes his way to New York. He runs into Ilana and tells her about his previous connection with Hannah. He explains to her that despite Hannah's illiteracy throughout the majority of her life, her suicide note instructed him to send Ilana the cash, some of the money she had in a bank account, and the tea tin. Michael is informed that there is nothing to be learned from the camps and that, if he wants catharsis, he should visit the theater. She agrees when Michael advises that he donate the money to a group that fights adult illiteracy, preferably a Jewish one. The teakin is kept by Ilana because it resembles one that she used to own before being deported to the camps, where it was taken to be melted down. In 1995, Michael and his daughter Julia, who is now 21 and just returned from a year in Paris, reconcile. In order to make amends for his shortcomings as a father, he takes her to a church that he and Hannah had previously visited during their bicycle tour almost 40 years prior. He shows her Hannah's tomb and starts to tell her the tale of him and Hannah.